hello everybody. The game we did is WDC Political Smackdown. We consist of, well, I'm Nathaniel, this is Will, this is Eric, Michael, and Reggie. So, what is WDC Political Smackdown? It's basically a 2D fighting game that consists of a bunch of political figures that are just going at it. And we use the YouTube fighting engine, there's multiplayer, and it's pretty awesome. And I'll pass it over to Will for a second.
Alright, so the way this game works is pretty much everything is run on one gigantic state machine. So the AI for each character, it depends on a number of triggers, such as collision detection, user input, such as what button the user press, whether it's punch, kick, block, up, down, left, right, etc. Special move. Battle outcome, so when the time runs out, which player has the most amount of health if one hasn't been knocked out yet. Sound, we included, let's see, I don't know how many different sound files for the different characters. Like McCain, he makes a special noise when he does his special attack. And basically the way this works is there's a couple different files. There's a command file that lists all these different commands that you can input, and they define these different triggers that must occur for the character to enter a certain state. And so you can see the state machines apply to things such as animations and specials. And so for the animations, you're talking about things as simple as just standing there, or the character flying across the screen, kicking the opponent in the chest. And so we have a couple different files that cover this, and I'll go into those in a second. And the other thing that we had was AI difficulty ramping. And the way this works is, as you win matches throughout the arcade, let's say you start off at medium difficulty and you just kick the crap out of the first character. So the way this works is the game recognizes that, and so on your next match, it'll up the difficulty level. So all of a sudden you went from just completely dominating the first character to now you're going to the second character, and it's a lot closer of a match, and sometimes if you don't get that lucky punch in at the last minute, you might actually lose. So anyway, here's a list of all the different files that we had to define one single character. And quite frankly, it was a real pain trying to get all these to work together. You got your error file, which defines all your animations. It defines your collision boxes, the amount of time that the game spends showing a particular sprite. So let's say the character wants to punch, well, he's got two sprites for that. First sprite, he's standing here, second sprite, he's standing here. The error file defines how many game takes it takes for the character to display that animation. The command file, as I mentioned, it defines all the triggers, all the keys that the user can press, and if you want to, you can even define things such as if you want a player to have a projectile animation where he launches some fireball at his opponent, you can define things such as opponent distance is greater than X number of pixels, and so the character won't throw that fireball until his opponent is a certain distance away because, well, why use a projectile, especially if it's limited use, if the character's standing right in front of you. The CNS file, that's your constants and states, and what that defines is things like the gravity of the player. So like let's say the player jumps, you don't want them having jumping all the way to the moon. You want to come down at some point. It also defines the different states, as I said. So like punches, the kicks, things such as actually being hit by his opponent. So you have to have an animation for when he gets punched, he's going to fall back. It's not, oh, he got hit, and yeah, he loses health, but he doesn't really react in any way. The character.def file is what brings all these together. So you list things such as the character's name, the files that the game has to include, and if you want, you can add certain stages to them so that way when you pick a certain character, like for example, for Barack Obama, we gave him the White House, like the Oval Office. And so we define things such as that. The sff.def file, there's two files. There's a sff.def and there's just a plain sff. And what those do is they define which images to include. So, for example, for both of our characters, we had 50-some sprites. Yeah, that was probably the hardest part about this. The sff.def, it defines where exactly these sprites are supposed to go and how they're supposed to be called in the game when they're supposed to be used. And the SFF is the actual container for all these images. So the sff.def, when you compile that, it creates the SFF file. And so it's just, if you opened it up, it would be just one gigantic tablet of images. Sound file, that's kind of self-explanatory. And then the act file, that's pretty much just the palettes. So all the colors that are used on a particular character, the game has to know which colors to include and which one, usually some solid color is the background. So again, the air file, this is all your animations. And so pretty much what it does is, you have begin action 0, so it's a standing animation. And it defines these collision boxes and how long the game should display this particular image. Once, all the triggers, such as entering state number 0, occur. The command file, I know this is getting kind of redundant, but here you have like your change state, so value equals 200. So when you get to your CNS file, you're going to have a state def that says state def 200. So that corresponds to stand light punch. And all these trigger all commands, actually this one's commented out, but these two right here. For example, command V, so the user pressed the punch command. And since he's standing, you also have to make sure he's not pressing the down key and holding it down, which would correspond to him crouching down. Also, state type, S, standing. Control, that implies that the user is not in the middle of another animation. So if the user just got hit and he's flying through the air, you don't want to be punching in midair because that wouldn't make any sense. Nobody can do that in real life. Again, state number 200. And we actually had to modify this time equals 6, or time greater than 6, because what was happening was our AI characters, they were standing there for at least 6 game takes before they would punch. And so what would happen is you'd get the character standing there, wait 6 game takes before even deciding to punch, and in that time you could probably knock out, maybe 3 punches and a kick, and you'd be doing significant damage to your AI opponent without him even thinking about retaliating. So we made it so it's time greater than 0. So at any point in this state, assuming all the triggers have been met, your AI opponent might attack you. This is the sff.def file.
I'm going to talk about how we kind of get the images into the game and how they're defined. So this is the sff.def file. So there are images that all the sprites that we created, and this def file will describe how we get those images in the game and how we reference them. So there are a few options at the top that Eugen has us include. Next is the file name for the actual SSF file. So when we compile it, there's a compiler within Eugen that will create this SFF for us, and that file name will tell us where it's going to output the SFF file. Next, what we do is we specify where our image name is, and that's the sprite that we want to include in the game, followed by a group number and an item number. So a group number is just like probably for a specific attack, you would want all of your images to be a group. So for Obama, when he's like this and he's like this, as his punching animation, you would want that to be under the same group number, and then the image number would vary. So you probably have 0, 0 for a group number, or 0 for the group number, and 0 for this image, and 1 for this image. So this example has I guess, just 3 standing animations. And for stand 0, 0, which is his first standing image, he has group number 0 and item number 0. Or an image number 0, I'm sorry. And then the next two values are his X and Y offsets, so it's just where he's positioned in the game. And so here it's just 17 and 105, which is his X and Y offsets. And then you can keep going and specifying other images. So here we have his stand 1 image, group 0, image number 1, also the same offsets, and you keep doing this. And so in this example, we define 4 different standing images, all in the same group, and this is what gets referenced in the animation file. So when you saw the numbers before, you would see they would reference 0, 0 for group 0, image 0, and that's how the images are referenced in the game. Daniel will talk about sound.
All right, so as far as sound goes, it works pretty similar as to the SSF file. You have to give it a group number, which is up here, and an image number over here. And you can add a file to it. Or actually, yeah. And then you can just pretty much just save it to whichever character. I mean, it's pretty basic. It's almost exactly the same way as the SSFF file, except you kind of have a little GUI that goes along with it. And this program that comes with the Mutant Toolkit can convert it into something the game is able to use, and it creates this SND file for you. And next we're going to talk about controls.
So basically, we have the block, punch, kick, and its special move. We have two characters, so they both have their special moves. Obama's is like a triple kick kind of thing, and we'll surprise you with mechanics because that one's pretty nice. And then we just have move left, right, crouch and jump. And also these sprites, like full color and everything, later on you're going to see that they're like a little bit more blurry. That's because of anti-aliasing and a bunch of other stuff I probably don't care about. But whenever you shrink an image, it causes the lines, the outside lines to blur, and that's what anti-aliasing is. And so it might not look as good as this, but that's just because we had to shrink the image, and that's like 150 kilobyte image, while the other one is actually 12. So I mean, that's basically it. And we have like 150 sprites, or not 100. We went from like 200.
Yeah.
We went from like 200 to reducing it down to 50, and so multiply that by 2, so like 100 sprites in this game, and it took a long time. So.
We spent, what was it, one night, like 7 hours to complete the sprites. Yeah.
And that was just like finishing off the sprites, not like doing all of them.
Yeah.
But I guess on the next slide we're going to go to the demo.
So I guess let's just talk about it while I
What was already open?
so it is. All right, so we have two levels. I'm going to be looking at the screen so we open the demo here. We've got Alaska with the big bear in the background. That's going to be Sarah Palin's level. We removed her from the game because it was just really hard to put another woman's body in because we have two men's bodies. So that's McCain's level. And then we've got, how do you use sounds?
Sound up or down.
I was going to do it on this. And the other level we've got is the White House. This was actually going to be Bill Clinton's level because it's his Oval Office. For the levels, you set the X and Y bounds. You can set like how the camera pans up, so you can make it so that the camera will stay at the top, like the head of the top guy jumping, or whether it goes up.
Yes.
Yeah. So do.
A little teaser. How do you sound box? It's just on.
So it would be John McCain. I'll go to
Do you want
training.
the sound higher?
What's that?
Did you want the sound
I'm not sure because we're trying
The sound's like almost nothing on the computer. Like we can hear it a little bit.
Oh, that's from his computer.
Yes, my computer. It's not your event.
So I'm just going to do training though. He doesn't actually fight back in this, but I just want to show some of the animations. Like when he jumps right there, it actually doesn't look that bad. I was going to say, like, I did that, so it looks terrible. You can see some of the image qualities, they get worse as it goes from Reggie to the rest of us. Like what Reggie could do, like 4 in an hour sprites, it took me like an hour and a half sitting with Microsoft Paint on like laptop and use awful. But standard kicks and punches. But this is the one thing we're really proud of. As time went on and we spent more and more time in the dungeon, stuff got more and more ridiculous. So John McCain's original move was just going to fly at you with a headbutt, but it turned into this. Nathan found the sound wave of him saying evil of Barracuda. Sure that is.
If you want to see,
Arcade?
yeah. So yeah, we'll go to arcade mode real quick. With arcade mode, we got to be a little more creative. We had the different levels that we could have for Obama and McCain, and we actually were also able to give them some intros. And so I'll start a level, or I'll start an arcade using each character, so you guys can see the two different intros. I'll try and show you Obama's special move as well if I can get up there.
This is John McCain's one. He's an old dinosaur.
But
He's trying to charm a special.
Yeah. So the blue bar under that's like an energy bar, and the special costs like 1/3 of that full bar, so that's why we couldn't do the special right over.
Yeah, so that was a special, but McCain blocked it, so that's why I really didn't do anything to him. But if you time it right, it does pretty good damage.
Yeah, it's really good. That's blocking.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to mention was that we think it was hard coded into the game. There's a mode called guard state. Yeah, go ahead and back up and shake McCain's intro. But there's a mode called guard state, which we think was hard coded in. But what that defines is basically if at any point the character is backing up, whether he's standing or crouching, he will automatically block every time. And we couldn't figure out how to change that. We're pretty certain it was just something that the guys who created Mugen did when they were creating the game platform. And Eric and I, we tried for a couple of hours, even up until last night, trying to figure out how to change that because it was, it was pissing us off too that he blocked just about everything.
where did you guys get these?
Google Images.
Not being aggressive.
So anyway, that's WDC Political Smackdown.
Questions from people? When you guys were talking about graphics, you talked about anti-eyeballing or something like that.
Anti-aliasing.
Yeah, what exactly is that again?
It's whenever you, alright, so whenever you grow or shrink or grow an image, it causes, well, it depends on what program you're using. I was using Illustrator, so like whenever I shrink an image, it uses vector art, so that means that it uses less anti-aliasing because it's based off of points, not necessarily pixels. But if you were using Photoshop and you shrink it, it causes the outside lines to blur. So if you have a black line like this and you shrunk this down, those lines right here are actually like black and yellow combined. That's what anti-aliasing is. It's just like the blurring of the outside image.
You know how to counter it?
Do what?
You know how to counter it?
Go into paint, change pixel to pixel.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Or you can just go into Photoshop and like replace out, like choose that color and replace it. But I mean, like it's complicated. I could like program something to do that, but it would take a long time.
So the game allows you to specify like whatever the background color of the image, you set that background color in its palette, and that'll make it transparent. But as if you're doing, if the color's kind of fading out and black is fading out to grays, lighter grays to white, then when you set white as the background, you'll still get those versions of grays like in part of the game. And that's why the characters kind of have like a gray outline.
Oh, and I actually, I didn't think about this till like the end, but I think if you shrink the character with a transparent background and then put the gray behind it, it would work probably much better. Even still, it would cost a little bit more.
Was there like a hard-coded size that you were trying to meet?
Yeah, we had a what were they usually, like, I started out with an image that was probably,
It was like 700 by 1200
Yeah.
when you
and
started
now
out.
we had to shrink it down to like 49 by 107.
Yeah, because when we put the original one, he had the 700 by 1200, whatever it was. We just got basically like this corner of Obama's head, so it was really too big.
And then there's no way for you to change the engine or like have it run a different scale.
No, because the thing is, like, if you download any character online that's been built for this game, they're pretty much all that size, the like 49 or 50 by 80 to 100. They're all that small.
So there's an example character that came with the game, and as far as like the size of the images, we tried to, like at each sprite that we use, we try to make an Obama image the same size as that the sprite for the old character was. That's kind of the dimensions we were working with.
Are there any features that you did not implement that you really wish you would have had more time to do?
The other, like, 6 characters.
Yeah, 6 characters.
Adding more characters, but I mean like in terms of AI sorts of things that you could have done?
I think maybe I would have liked to had a projectile move for Obama. Like I know we originally mentioned the Hope ray gun, but I was trying to figure out how to do projectiles, and there was, I think, like 50 tutorials on it, and they were all extremely lengthy, and it was just like that was a point where we didn't even have all the sprites done for just the basic models. So to include sprites for the projectiles, that would have probably been another at least, I don't know, 6 hours worth of labor. So that's one thing if we had more time, we would like to have done, because at that point you can define, do this move if the character is a certain number of pixels away, and you can also change things such as if the player's current health is below a certain thing, you can adjust, whether they're more cautious or more aggressive. And so for the projectiles, if their health drops below a certain point, you can have them do projectiles more often because it keeps their opponent at a distance.
Yeah.
So what kind of AI was baked in, and how did you work with that?
Well, they had those, like I said, it was primarily just a gigantic state machine, and so the template character had his own triggers, and they corresponded to all the different animations for the template character. But the template character had something like 170 different animations and like 280 sprites. And obviously we can't work on something of that size, so what we did was he had his as a template, and then we drafted our own little state machine that had a fraction of the amount of triggers that he had, and of course a corresponding fraction of the amount of sprites, and therefore a fraction of the amount of animations. So I mean, it's just kind of looking what we could find online, is because there's if you just Google Mugen character downloads, I guarantee you could find thousands of characters that you can base your information off of, but it's all state machine driven.
Any other questions? Okay, why don't we thank them?